We know Kamala Harris don't like black men because she made her whole career locking them up.
Kamala Harris does not represent the interests of black people. And Kamala Harris does not represent the interests of the United States of America.
You got the Democrats taking care of every other group in America but black people. You can't win, Art. Which one is the lesser of the two?
What's going on, guys? So we got some pretty interesting news here. You would think that a lot of black folks would be clamoring for Kamala, and in fairness, a lot of people are. However, there's also like a counter resistance to people that are, again, actually familiar with Kamala Harris's record, or they've done the research on her record after she was announced to be the VP and now the presidential, presumably nominee for president. And people aren't liking Kamala. As a matter of fact, Black Lives Matter had something to say here. I got their statement up on the screen from blacklivesmatter.com. So Black Lives Matter's statement on Kamala Harris securing enough delegates to become the nominee. So you have to actually do it at the DNC convention, which I do think is probably going to happen, because I think that now, I mean, can you imagine if they tried to switch it up now? I just don't see that working out well in their favor, but that's an aside. So here it says, Black Lives Matter demands that the Democrat National Committee immediately host an informal virtual snap primary across the country prior to the DNC convention in August. We call for the Rules Committee to create a process that allows for public participation in the nomination process, not just a nomination by party delegates. Okay, so they're basically ticked off, as they should be, that you had Joe Biden winning the primary and then the delegates just turned around and dropped him and selected Kamala Harris, as they should be. And that's what I'm saying. I'm a little confused about the people who aren't upset about this. I'm like, you're okay with being lied to in this process? Like, I just don't understand it. Like, if Nikki Haley ended up winning the primary and then they just turn around and anointed Trump, I wouldn't be happy about it. I feel like that was a very like weird circumvental like, I don't know, that just doesn't sound convenient. It doesn't sound good. It does not sound democratic to me. Continuing here, the current political landscape is unprecedented, with President Biden stepping aside in a manner never seen before. This moment calls for decisive action to prevent the integrity of our democracy and the voices, to protect the integrity of our democracy and the voices of black voters. While Joe Biden wasn't our preferred candidate, we cannot ignore the troubling actions of the Democrat Party. The DNC refuses to host debates during the primary. Okay, so for those who don't know, yes, there was basically no debates. I think there was like a debate sponsored by like some radio station or something at the time between Marianne Williamson and Dean Phillips, but they didn't have like any formalized debate that was actually sponsored by the DNC. Okay, even though a vast majority of Democrat voters wanted them, of course they did, this would have likely allowed America to see the decline of Joe Biden in 2023, which again, the DNC did not want you to do. I'd be willing to bet that they almost planned this entire thing with Joe Biden, knowing that they were just going to swap Kamala Harris in at the last minute if they needed to, and then try to win with the honeymoon phase, kind of getting Kamala Harris in office over that finish line. The DNC changed the primary schedule and created rules that made it almost impossible for non-Biden candidates to appear on the ballot. Also true, effectively clearing the field of any challengers to the incumbent president. Following the primary, where millions of black voters weighed in after one poor debate performance, the DNC elites and billionaire donors bullied Joe Biden out of the race. So who knew that Black Lives Matter was secretly based, because they did not appreciate this. As a matter of fact, some people have been sounding off, not necessarily Black Lives Matter, but black voters have been expressing their disgust for the Democrats. Take a look.
I know I said I was done for the day, but then I saw this. Black Lives Matter literally saying, we do not accept.
Got it! So you guys were on top of cars in 2020 screaming Black Lives Matter, only to be voting in a cop in 2024. That is peak fucking cringe, okay? Kamala Harris had a history and a reputation for being tough on crime. She specifically targeted Black and brown households. She put so many Black and brown people behind bars. Under her truancy law, Black and brown parents had life-altering criminal records, faced financial burdens because of her truancy laws. That is who you guys are putting your vote behind after doing all that protesting for Black Lives Matter in 2020.
We know she's vice president, sweetie. We're aware. That's not what this is about, okay? So let me go to the I don't know how politics work. I know so much about how politics work that I happen to know that you guys think that she is running for president, like she's the candidate. She's not. She has not been nominated as of yet. She will not be nominated until August at your national convention. I know so much about politics. We clocked this months ago while you guys were still running around here talking about Biden, Biden, Biden. That being said, my statement had nothing to do with her being vice president, and her being vice president actually does not set her up to be president. It does not mean that she has what it takes to be the president that's going to represent what your people always want, which is race and gender politics. That's all you focus on, which is why out of the other candidates, which were better picks and better choices for you guys to rally around, you rallied around the woman, and the woman that conveniently, when she was being nominated for Congress, wanted to remind you she was Asian, and then now want to remind you she's Black. You rally around the one around race and gender politics. Don't do me, because I'm not the one to be done. Just in case y'all have forgotten. 2 bachelor's degrees, master's, PhD, and currently at Harvard, and government and political courses. Don't do me, boo. Do your mama. Let me also add that knowing politics is knowing that a president's agenda is going to be on their website, not this random website that was put up and pushed out by a nonprofit organization having nothing to do with Donald Trump. I also know enough to know that the emphasis you guys are putting just on this, and most of you don't even put this much emphasis on your Congress, your House of Representatives, nor your Senate seats, lets me know that you don't really understand the checks and balances of power that happen within our U.S. government. Because if you did understand that, half of the stuff you fear, you would not fear, because you would understand that our government is set up to ensure that most of the things that you guys are talking about will never happen.
Let me continue here because the rest of this is pretty scornful. It's pretty scathing. So now Democrat elites and billionaire donors are attempting to manipulate Black voters, because that's what they always do, is try to manipulate Black voters and control them like puppet masters. And unfortunately, a lot of our folks in our community are simply not intelligent enough and advanced enough to understand this. I'm a little confused by how you could be like older than like the age of 20 and kind of not start waking up. But I think that is a lot of shame in the community. Like, how dare you not be as Black as me by being a hardcore Democrat? It's like being a Democrat is like associated with being Black. If you're not a Democrat, you ain't Black. That's what Joe Biden said.
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't Black.
Continuing here, they want to manipulate Black voters by anointing Kamala Harris and an unknown vice president as a new Democrat ticket without a primary vote by the public. This is blatant disregard for Democrat principles that is unacceptable. While the potential outcome of a Harris presidency may be historic, the process to achieve it must align with true Democratic values. We have no idea where Kamala Harris stands on the issues now that she's assumed Joe Biden's place, and we have no idea of the record of her potential vice president because we don't even know who it is yet. Now, that's not true. Kamala Harris is a far leftist on basically every issue because that's the way that the wind has been blowing recently for left-wing politics. So that's where Kamala Harris went. That's the type of person she is. She's not a genuine person who follows her own politics. I don't think Kamala gives a damn at all. I think she just does whatever the hell she feels like is going to get her votes. That's just how the Democrats have become.
If you thought Joe Biden was radical, just wait until you get to know Kamala Harris. She's dangerously liberal.
I am Kamala Harris. My pronouns are she and her.
You know, for far too long, the status quo thinking has been to believe that by putting more police on the street, you're going to have more safety. And that's just wrong.
You're confident this border's secure?
We have a secure border.
We're not going to treat people who are undocumented across the border as criminals. That's correct.
People who are convicted in prison, like the Boston Marathon bomber, on death row, they should be able to vote?
I think we should have that conversation.
Abolish ICE. Yeah. Is that a position that you agree with?
Listen, I think there's no question that we've got to critically re-examine ICE, and we need to probably think about starting from scratch.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's new darling of the party. She 60 Minutes this weekend proudly calling herself a radical, and she's promoting policies like saying that every single carbon emission in the country, every car, should be eliminated within the next 11 years, everything from a 70 to 80% tax rate. Do you agree that she could possibly, in this ideology of the socialist left, could splinter your party?
No, you know, I think that's fantastic.
And it gets worse from there. It says, at Black Lives Matter, our focus is on building strong communities, addressing root issues, and creating spaces of justice and joy. This election process has been a disservice to our communities and to democracy. So the Democrats, well, the Black Lives Matter specifically, is calling out the Democrats for circumventing democracy. This is going to be horrifically scathing. Donald Trump, it's time, baby. It's time to cook Kamala. Black Lives Matter themselves is cooking Kamala. Even they don't like Kamala Harris. Even they don't like the tyrannical left. Black Lives Matter themselves is denouncing the Democrats in this whack process of basically anointing whoever the hell they want. Screw the 14 million people, the 14 million plus people who voted for sleepy cadaver Joe Biden. They want to anoint somebody who has a better chance of winning. Screw what the voters want. That's the Democrats for you. Let's keep going. Historically, black people have been loyal Democratic voters, but time and time again, the party has taken our votes for granted and prioritized political theatrics over our real needs. Facts. We do not live in a dictatorship. Delegates are not oligarchs. Oh man, this is bad. Any attempt to evade or override the will of the voters in our primary system, no matter how historic the candidate, must be condemned. We demand, we demand an informal virtual snap primary now that the incumbent president is no longer in the running. And oh, they're not done yet. I'm almost to the end here. For the past few years, the Democrat Party has proclaimed that democracy is on the ballot in an effort to persuade black voters to participate in the upcoming general election. They have presented this as the most serious election for democracy in our lifetimes. Of course they have. They're going to say that next election too. Every election from this point forward is going to be pictures of the Republican and Donald Trump in pictures together. And they're going to use that as like a weapon against the Republicans every election for like the rest of our lives. However, democracy isn't just an ideal to be presented against Republicans. It must also be safeguarded from erosions within the Democratic Party. I'm so freaking shocked, honestly, that anybody's even saying this. Calls for unity cannot come at the expense of democracy. The Democratic Party, which has been the loudest in defending democracy, is now poised to commit some of the most undemocratic maneuvering to avoid listening to the wills of the voters. They also call out something that I've mentioned here too. They say that imagine if Kamala Harris is able to win and immediately she's going to be called a complete DEI president, because even if she does somehow manage to win the official election, she never even won the primary election. So for the rest of history, she's going to be known as the president who was a DEI president, the president who didn't win a primary, the president who literally didn't have any debates, like basically did not even have a fair process and was just anointed, picked by a bunch of left-wing lunatic hypocrites. Black Lives Matter themselves is calling this out, and it's pathetic that they even have this community so torn. The Democrats cannot get it together. They're getting destroyed. Trump camp, I already know, probably knows about this, and if not, they definitely need to hear about it because this is brutal for the Democrats. Now you got Black Lives Matter with this statement up. Even if they were to detract this, which I doubt that they will, it's gonna destroy the party. Once more black people, you know, the ones who want to actually be smarter and want to be politically informed, take a read at this, it's gonna destroy the unity of the black community within the party that's trying to support Kamala Harris. A lot of black people gonna be like, huh, I didn't really think about it like that, but it is the truth. Let me know what you guys think. Are the Democrats hypocritical here, or is this just totally fair game because Kamala Harris is the VP? That's one of the things that I've heard. Well, she's the VP. Of course, it makes sense. Like, what are you talking about? But no, it doesn't make sense. It makes sense if Joe Biden were to like die or step down from his position as president now, then Kamala Harris couldn't be the president now. I wouldn't have a problem with her doing it. As a matter of fact, honestly, I prefer that Joe Biden step down because he clearly doesn't have nothing upstairs. I would be fine with Kamala Harris being president to the end of Biden's term, but in terms of this election process, it is a farce. It's fake. It's BS. Let me know what you guys think. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I appreciate you watching the Black Anomaly Rising channel. I'm out.
We know Kamala Harris don't like black men. She's married to a white man.